What 4 communication steps can I leave with you if we haven't given you some thought, food for thought this morning already? So these are 4 ways to keep engagement going. So the first one is interruption. When people talk, we all do it. We can't help ourselves. We want to go, yeah, but, and we want to challenge and we want to defend and we want to get our point across. It is so important. This is just going back to basics. You may think, well, I know this, but we don't practice it. So to have better communication, we want to look at how much we interrupt versus how much we absorb. If you want to really get your point across, let the other person finish. Let them finish their sentence, their train of thought, and then ask a question, or then bring your point across when they finish making their point. Often the misinterpretation or the misunderstanding happens because we haven't allowed our partner or person to finish speaking, and we've literally jumped straight in. And when we've jumped straight in, you can imagine it's been the most uncomfortable landing, and that person feels, hang on, I'm not being heard, I'm not being understood, so why should I let you speak? And hence it goes to a disarray. So, consider how much you interrupt. Keep eye contact. Most of us, and this is why I say we will wander, we will move our eyes around, we won't be attentive. When you're listening, bring your whole self to the listening. When you're listening, look into the person's eyes. Show them, nod your head, show them that you're listening to them. When it's appropriate, repeat back, if you want to. But don't obviously stare them out, obviously blink and look away. I think the appropriate time is around 5 seconds where you can naturally just, pause and bring your eye contact back. But as you can imagine, if you're trying to do something or talk to your partner, and as I say, whether they're scrolling on the phone or they're doing something else, communication will never land because you haven't got that person's full undivided attention. Okay. Sometimes it's not the right time to respond back. Sometimes you have to look, what is it about the other person's communication that is upsetting you? We all have, like I said, judgment, our expectations. And it's important that we step back and reflect. In that moment, you can ask for clarity. I always say, if you don't understand something, ask for clarity. Am I hearing this correctly? So let me get this correct. This is what you're saying to me. This is where that piece at the beginning of listening will matter so much, right? And then you'll see whether you've, like I said, put your own mirchi masala to it, the interpretation, or whether you have actually listened to the words. Because when you've listened to the words, you'll get the clarity. When you ask the relevant questions back, can I just check this is where you're at? That will open up the opportunity. And sometimes when you do that with other people, it makes them stop and think, hang on a minute, did I want it to sound like that? Or did I mean it to sound like that? They will often retreat as well. Okay, so it's a great technique just to step back and ask a question or two to say, can I check my understanding? And like I said, most of us go into the defense without realizing we're doing it. So again, building on that, withhold our judgment. So as I say, a lot of the time when we are in communication with someone, we will bring everything about judging them, about what they wear, how their hair looks, what they're doing, how they're holding themselves. We will have constant judgment going on. Real communication is when you can suspend all judgment and just be willing to be with the person as they are and as they're not. Be willing to hear them, willing to understand their point of view. And that's what allows us to then step over there in somebody else's shoes, or as I called it, stand shoulder to shoulder and go, let me look with you. So let me get this straight. This is the way you see the world. It's not about being right or wrong in that moment, but it's if you are willing to understand your partner, because that's half the battle. When you've won that bit, finding a solution or coming back with a counter argument is so much more easier. But we can't do that if we're adamant that firstly, what we think is true. Secondly, we're bringing judgment. And thirdly, we've got expectations going on, right? And I know these are all the things that we naturally do. They're the most easiest things that we all do. But the way to transform your relationship is to look at those areas and go, actually, just for a minute or two, can I suspend them while I just be with this person and let them have their say? So the 4 steps, how to become an active listener, is firstly, stop interrupting. Understand your communication style, what works better for you. Are you a morning person, afternoon person, evening person? You know, are you one of those that let me have my first cup of tea before you tell me stuff? You know, like this morning, you know, I've come down and my dad goes, I've got some letters for you to read. I need you to action them. I'm like, please put them on side. I will deal with them tomorrow, not today. So it's about how you're managing people. You know, once upon a time, my dad would say that, and he'd be constantly shoving a piece of paper under my nose to the point that I would end up getting upset, going, I don't want to do it now. Whereas now, because they understand myself and I've taken the time to understand them, as in my parents, but certainly with my dad, there's a lot more acceptance if I don't do things straight away. And that's taken time, right? I'm not going to say to you it's happened overnight. It has taken time. But it started over here of me learning to love him the way that he wanted to be loved, not the way I think I should be loving them. So discover your partner's needs, determine if your partner's needs are being met. Ask yourself, are you being open and honest in your communication, or do you hold back? A lot of us will withdraw, or communication can get thwarted by you go to tell them and then it gets interrupted. And sometimes you just withheld. And that is not communication when you know you're withholding stuff back. Be present in your relationship. It's not about, and again, I did, I think, a reel earlier this week of, it's not about the time that you spend together. It's not, I need to spend loads of time with my partner. But it's the time that you are together, that you are present, that you have agreed ways of going, do you know what? When we're around, phones away, or, you know, we're going to have once a week where we have a check-in for about half an hour or an hour just to catch up on our week. Let things go. This is the hardest one. I'm sure that you've got a bank of things that you hold against people. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yes. So again, yeah. Say that again, Hansa.
I said for decades. I think that's probably my biggest one, because I just relive things out of, or people that I might have said things, and that have hurt me. Even if you think you've let them go and forgotten them, when they say that same person might trigger the same emotion, let's say, instead of just looking at the one in isolation today and now, it'd be like 6 other things will come into their head. If you haven't dropped them, and it just distorts the intensity of the current one probably, and then it will naturally distort my communication skills, response, etc., and then probably doesn't go where I want it to go, etc. So
yeah,
it's like a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. A lot of our, thank you for sharing that and being honest. Again, a lot of our communication is coming from the past. We have stuff that we're holding against people when we go into communication with them, even if it's today and you haven't seen them for 10 years, guess what? Or you'll bring all of that baggage up first. You'll put barriers up so that the communication is that much more harder, or as I call it, it's an invisible icebox. And that's one of my specialities, is how to melt that icebox really quickly so that you can just be with people and you're not holding and bringing 20 years worth of crap with you. So let go of things is really, really key. And breaking negative patterns. You know, one of my unfortunate bad habits used to be interrupting people, right? So I have to be really careful with it. Really careful that I don't step over it, I don't dismiss it, and, you know, make it feel like for someone else, like, oh, that's not important. And when I realized I used to do that, that was a game changer for me, that allowed people to go, okay, I want to share with you. Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. For more valuable insights and golden nuggets about all things relationships, come join me on my WhatsApp group, which is free, or a Facebook group where I'll be sharing more. The link is somewhere below in the description. Click on it and I'll speak to you soon.